In Peru, President Dina Boluarte announces that on Saturday the 10th, the new ministerial cabinet will be sworn in, while social organizations demand Congress dissolution and early elections. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Kyrgyzstan, where he will take part in a summit of the Eurasian Economic Union. Nine people died in a coal mine explosion in Indonesia's West Sumatra province. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Peru, President Dina Boluarte announces that on Saturday, December the 10th, the new ministerial cabinet will be sworn in. The president told the media of her gratitude to the people of Peru and asked for calm while waiting for the swearing-in. In this sense, she indicated that they are in the process of confirming the new ministerial cabinet, which will be completed by the end of Friday. The president regrets the temporary closing of the Congress and the establishment of a government of exception, because as a Democrat, she is in favor of the citizen, the constitutional law, and the balance of powers. Thousands of people took to the streets in several Peruvian cities on Thursday to demand new elections and the release of the former president Pedro Castillo. One of the main gathering points was the central square of Chora, Cajamarca, where a large group of demonstrators marched to show their support to the ousted president Pedro Castillo. The Regional Central of Peasant Patrols of Cajamarca summoned its members to show support for Castillo, and the entity announced that they will go to Lima to participate in the next demonstrations. The leaders also informed that this protest measure will not only take place in Chora, but also in several provinces of the Cajamarca region. Meanwhile, on Thursday, in the Peruvian capital Lima, police violently repressed hundreds of protesters who were marching towards Parliament. Law enforcement used tear gas against the crowd and arrested at least 3 demonstrators. There were also similar mobilizations in the southern Indian cities of Ayacucho and Puno. The demonstrators denounced the illegitimacy of the Congress and demanded that Castillo fulfill his constitutional mandate. Now we move on to other topics. In the United States, an oil spill in a creek in northeastern Kansas shut down a major pipeline that carries oil from Canada to the Texas Gulf Coast, briefly causing oil prices to rise. Canada-based TC Energy said it shut down its Keystone system following a drop in pipeline pressure. The company said oil spilled into Oil Creek into Washington County, Kansas, about 241 kilometers northwest of Kansas City. TC Energy said in a news release that the pipeline segment where the spill occurred had been isolated and that the company was using booms or barriers to keep the spilled oil from moving downstream. And the U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona stepped down from the Democratic Party to become an independent, as she announced on Friday. Sinema's decision comes just days after Democrats won a Senate race in Georgia and secured 51 seats in the 100-member chamber, driven by deep political divisions. Sinema said that she never properly fit in either national party and said she will not caucus with the Republican Party, so the Democrats could still maintain greater governing control in the closely divided chamber. Sinema's announcement came as the future of Democratic President Joe Biden's agenda in the second half of his four-year term was already clouded by Republicans who are set to take majority control of the House of Representatives on January 3rd as a result of the November 8th midterm elections. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Kyrgyzstan on Friday, where he will take part in a summit of the Eurasian Economic Union. The leaders are expected to discuss creating a common gas market and establishing an intergovernmental council in the energy sphere. They will also address further integration within the Eurasian Economic Union and the development of a common market of services. During the summit, a package of documents is expected to be signed, as leaders will also adopt the Union's international priorities for 2023. In the sidelines of the main event, President Vladimir Putin will hold a series of bilateral talks with regional leaders, including Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. The Eurasian Economic Union is an integration project initiated by Russia to protect the interests of the nations of the region after the dissolution of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the face of the expanding influence of Washington and Brussels. The bloc is made up of 5 North Asian and Eastern European nations, namely Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. Global polarization and the financial crisis of 2008 favored its consolidation as an economic region, which was reflected in the 2014 treaty signed in Astana. It is a region with a shared history and culture and a market estimated at $1.9 trillion. We have more information. In Moscow, at least one person died as a result of a large-scale fire in the Mega Kimchi shopping center during the early hours of Friday morning. According to emergency services, the victim is a man, possibly a security guard. The fire started at around 6 a.m. local time Moscow in the area of the Obi Construction hypermarket near the Moscow Ring Road. As a result, the supermarket was completely burned down. According to reports, the fire ravaged 17,000 square meters on the roof of the building over an area of several thousand square meters collapsed. The incident follows a string of explosions and fires in Russia, in particular another that occurred in the Belgorod region, and a strong fire that broke out on the territory of the village of Yakolevo. Russia and the United States established a prisoner swap with which the Russian businessperson Viktor Bout and the American sportswoman Brittney Griner regained their freedom. The Russian Viktor Bout assured that during his detention he did not feel Russophobia in the United States prisons. On the contrary, he detailed that he felt the empathy of his cellmates. Viktor Bout was serving a 25-year sentence in the United States on charges of conspiracy to murder U.S. citizens, while American basketball player Brittney Griner was sentenced to 9 years in prison for smuggling 0.7 grams of hashish, which she had contained in cooking oil. Serbian officials reacted strongly on Friday after Kosovo law enforcement said one officer was injured by gunmen after an increase in police presence in northern areas dominated by the Serb minority. A police officer was slightly wounded and a police car was damaged after an armed man fired guns from a vehicle in the village of Srbović, Zvekan commune, 50 kilometers north of the capital Pristina. Petar Petrovic, a Serbian official in charge of Kosovo, said that Serbia was considering sending up to 1,000 of its security forces to Kosovo to protect the ethnic Serb population. Kosovo government's decision to ban Serbia-issued license plates pushed Serb lawmakers, prosecutors, and police officers in Kosovo's northern communes to abandon local governing posts in early November, prompting a call for snap elections on December 18th. Now we address other topics. On Thursday, Turkey's maritime authority said 15 oil tankers were banned from passing through the Turkish straits due to a lack of proper insurance amid the European sanctions on Russian oil. According to the Turkish General Directorate of Maritime Affairs, the protection and indemnity insurance of these ships is invalid due to the European Union sanctions, and that insurance cannot be compensated in the event of an accident, a measure enforced this year. The EU's sanctions on Russian oil, which came into force on Monday, prohibit tankers transporting Russian crude from accessing European maritime insurance unless the oil is sold for $60 per barrel or less. Turkey announced its own new insurance regulation before the EU price cap decision, and several tankers so far have been stopped from entering Turkish waters. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. 9 people died in a coal mine explosion in Indonesia's West Sumatra province on Friday. The blast, caused by poisonous gases, including methane, occurred in a mine owned by a private company while miners were entering the mine pit. A spokesperson from a local search and rescue agency said rescuers were still looking for one more miner who is trapped inside. There were 12 miners suspected working inside the mining site during the explosion. Local rescuers were using blowers to remove air from the mine in order to secure the area. A Chinese airline on Friday became the first customer to take delivery of a long-range jetliner produced by a state-owned manufacturer. The Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China's Z919 is part of the Communist Party's efforts to transform the country into a creator of profitable technologies and reduce reliance on foreign products. According to the National Central Television, the model delivered to China's Eastern Airlines seats 164 passengers. The single-aisle, which is meant to compete with Airbus and Boeing, has a range of 4 to 5 kilometers. China called for safeguarding an equitable and reasonable international maritime order at a meeting commemorating the 40th anniversary of the adoption and opening of the signature of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Speaking at the meeting, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on all governments to formulate rules and policies to prioritize the ocean protection and conservation. Meanwhile, Csaba Kőrösi, the president of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly, said that the convention will demonstrate the strength of multilateralism and global governance. China's permanent representative to the UN, Zhang Jun, called on all to show the spirit of multilateralism demonstrated by the convention and safeguard an equitable international maritime order. He also stressed the need to advocate dialogue and consultation, abide by the principle of state consent, and peacefully resolve maritime disputes. And China is committed to strengthening cooperation at all levels with Arab countries at a summit where the two sides hope to enhance their strategic partnership in the economic, political, security, and social spheres.
In 1949. This is how Beijing described the China-Arab States Summit held within the framework of President Xi Jinping's visit to Saudi Arabia. This is the first summit between the second world power and the Arab countries, and according to analysts, it represents a strategic opportunity for both parties to strengthen solidarity and cooperation in the midst of the current global situation and the changing dynamics in the Gulf.
The complementarity between China and the Arab states is natural. The Arab world has the energy we need while we have the infrastructure, building capabilities that the Arabs need, and we have the whole industrial chain. Any Arab country, no matter what level of development it is at, can come to China to seek cooperation. This summit is really the result of the mutual needs and expectations of both sides.
According to China, the summit will undoubtedly take cooperation to a whole new level, not only in the economic sphere, but also at the level of political coordination and synchronization of development strategies. China is the largest trading partner of the Arab countries, and in 2021, the bilateral trade volume exceeded $300 billion. Such cooperation extends from the fields of energy and agriculture to the digital economy and the peaceful use of nuclear energy, mostly under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative. Arab countries are an important stakeholder in the history of civilization and natural partners in promoting the cooperation of the Belt and Road Initiative. China and Arab countries have implemented more than 200 mega projects in infrastructure, energy, and other fields, and the results have benefited nearly 2 billion people. This meeting and Xi Jinping's visit to Saudi Arabia attracted the attention of several international players, especially the United States, which does not want to lose its influence in the region and is concerned about the important agreements that have been signed, and the possibility of these agreements boosting the prestige of the Chinese yuan at the global level, whose entry into crude oil deals will reduce the dominance of the US dollar. However, Chinese analysts maintain that the White House and some US and Western elites misinterpreted this Chinese-Arab summit, saying that the roles of the United States and China in the Middle East are neither antagonistic nor mutually exclusive, but that the Asian country, unlike others, advocates respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, opposing all forms of hegemonism.
Thank you, Ramsey, for this report. And now we move on to other topics. In Afghanistan, more than 28 million people, almost half of them children, will be in need of humanitarian assistance by 2023, according to a recent assessment report by the United Nations organization. The Economy Ministry confirmed that drought, climate change, and banking restrictions are the main reasons for poverty. The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs reported that the country is entering the second year of a crippling economic downturn. Afghanistan was cut off from international financial institutions after the United States froze almost $10 billion of the assets of the central bank of the country, devastated by 2 decades of war. The United States decision worsened the situation, and food and fuel prices doubled, putting thousands of people out of work. And the construction of Square Kilometre Array, the world's largest radio telescope, began in South Africa on the way ahead of unlock the mysteries of the universe. The SKA will initially consist of 2 telescope arrays, the SKA low in Western Australia and the SKA mid in South Africa's Karoo region, operated by the SKA Observatory headquartered in the United Kingdom. One of the arrays is situated in the Karoo region of Carnarvon, Northern Cape, which is perfectly sheltered from natural enemies of the Square Kilometre Array radio telescope, such as radio waves, dense populations, and traffic noise. The project is expected to help mankind fill in the gaps in human beings' basic understanding of the universe and play an important role in research fields such as testing Einstein's theory of relativity in gravitational waves and extreme environments and the evolution of the universe.
Part of what will eventually form the telescope are the dishes, and our partner in China will be delivering these 130 dishes here into the Kourou. That will form a significant part of the eventual SKM telescope to eventually form the 197 dishes that will make up the SKM telescope. So a moment like this is a time to look at the future, and this is our moment where we're building the building blocks for an operational telescope that is going to be here for the next 50 years. And it's through our relationships with our partners like China that we're able to get the construction going, get the dishes on the ground, and eventually start operating this telescope.
And just as the hearts of millions of fans live the emotions of the Qatar 2022 World Cup, TeleSUR joins this sporting event with From the Field, a show that brings news, analysis, reviews, and more to our audience. Don't miss it. Our show airs 1 p.m. local time in Caracas and 12 p.m. New York. Remember, From the Field, only on TeleSUR. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.